In this episode of Single Sign-On, we are going to register a Google client application, use it to sign up users and sign in users, and retrieve some initial data. Hello again. What we're going to do now is create a Google application that we're going to use to access our Google account. Our Google account will serve as an identity provider to Azure B2C. So we can use Google to sign new users into our application without them having to fill in the information. It'll just auto create a profile for them through Google's already existing information and infrastructure. So let's begin. Go to console.cloud.google.com. When you get here, you're going to want to create a new project. Just click here, new project. Give it a name. Right, my virtual auth test Google. Don't have to save it in an organization for this demonstration. Create it. The project has been successfully created. Just select the project. After you've selected the project, go to APIs and services. It says the quick access. You can just go there through the navigation menu, APIs and services. Let's configure our consent screen first. External, available to any test user with a Google account. The app name, my virtual auth test Google. User support email. I'm just going to select my email address. Developer contact information, email address. Just going to enter this test email address, save and continue. Let's add some scopes. Our primary email address, our profile, OpenID for authentication. That should suffice for the tutorial. Update. Now that the scopes are set, let's save and continue. Let's add some test users. Add, save and continue. There's the summary. Let's go back to creating the credentials. Create credentials. OAuth client ID. The application type is a web application because it's NextJS. We're going to give it the same name, my virtual auth test Google. Authorized JavaScript origins. We're going to add localhost. Not secure. For 3000. Add URI. Just add the secure one as well, though it won't be necessary. Let's add these as authorized redirect URIs as well. Add the B2C URI because that's what's calling this particular client. Copy the client ID and the client secret. Copy them somewhere safe. Now that we have these, we're going to use these to actually authenticate users in our Azure B2C application. Let's go back to the Azure portal. There's a very important concept called policies. These policies actually drive the UI that allows single sign-on to happen. You can see user flows under policies on the left-hand pane if we click on it. User flows are basically an easier way to represent policies. Here's an example of a policy. If we click on the login button, there's a policy that runs that tells this UI how to look, which buttons to put on here, and which social accounts to actually list here. All of these are driven with XML files, which are called policies. These user flows are just created to make things easier for the basic user. If you create a user flow and create an identity provider, let's say Microsoft, as I did in this particular example, and use that user flow to try to log into a Microsoft account. You'll see it says we're logged in, but we cannot call Microsoft Graph, for example. This is because the access token that's given to us by the user flow is not a valid token to use. These are some of the limitations of user flows as opposed to custom policies. There's a GitHub repository which contains the starter pack of custom policies that you can use. I like it because it's quite thoroughly documented. I'm going to have a special episode that goes through custom policies in much more detail. What you need now is to go to this GitHub repository. I'm going to give you the link in the description and in a comment. And then we're going to use the social and local accounts. So click on the code button. We're going to clone this repository, copy the Git repository's URL, open your favorite terminal. We're going to just git clone it, enter. After it's cloned, we're going to hop into that particular Active Directory B2C folder. We're going to open Visual Studio Code init, code dot. Go to social and local accounts. Now there's a hierarchy of policies here. The base policy just defines the primitive operations and variables that are going to be used in your policies. The localization policy actually references the base policy and extends it. It's like inheritance when you're coding. The extensions policy inherits the localization policy and provides things like external identities. And finally, you can have your custom policy, which extends the extensions policy and provides your own custom modifications to your policy. What we're going to do is copy this particular social and local accounts folder in from our Explorer and then put it in our repository. We are going to be augmenting on the previous episode's code, which I've shared in the description. By the way, if you want, the link to that particular episode will be in the repository itself and in this video's description. After cloning our previous episode, we're just going to navigate to source and paste the policy that we've selected from the custom policy starter pack. And then we're going to edit it. Let's look at our auth config. Remember to change these variables: the client ID, the directory name. The directory name or tenant name you'll find in your Azure portal. Navigate to your Azure B2C policies folder that you've created. Let's look at the base policy. Okay, your tenant.onmicrosoft.com. I'm going to replace this in the entire workspace with my actual tenant. So I'm going to put my video on Microsoft.com. 17 occurrences, replace. Cool. So those are replaced in all my policies. To save them all. And let me go to localization. There shouldn't be anything here. These are already replaced. And extensions, perfect. Go to the identity experience framework under policies. On the left hand pane, you'll see policy keys. Click on it. We're going to generate one for our local accounts. The name is in the starter packs policy. Let's navigate there. In our policy starter pack, in the base policy, just search for cryptographic keys. We're not editing the Facebook one, just search, and then you'll see the token signing key container. We're going to create this particular key. You'll be able to add your own policy key. Add the signing key. Let's add an encryption key. Generate it. Encryption key container. It must definitely be RSA. Encryption. Create. Right. By default, in the base policy, we have a Facebook claims provider, we're going to add a Google claims provider. Google.com. The display name is Google, of course. Just change this. Then the authorization endpoint, access token endpoint. We're going to set our scope here. Just emails and the profile should suffice. We're going to add the client ID. It's actually a post call. And then we're going to add our cryptographic policy key. Let's just creatively name it Google Secret like this. Awesome. And then this is the secret we got from the Google console. Let's save this. Let's modify the identity provider here. In our extensions policy, use the Google claims provider. Client ID, the Google client ID. Let's modify our claims endpoint here. Instead of Facebook, we're just going to use the Google email profile. We can probably just remove it from the base policy. Actually, save it. Let's copy the entire sign up or sign in user journey. Let's go to our extensions policy. Under user journeys, just uncomment this. Okay, that's missing. Paste the entire user journey here. My view to sign up or sign in. Just select an appropriate name for your user journey here. Let's change the name to Google Exchange here. In the next orchestration step, we're going to change our claims exchange to Google Exchange. Change this name as well to match what we have in our base. All right, looks good. What we need to do is retrieve the access token that's created by Google itself. So you can use that access token to call Google APIs like Gmail and others. If we go to our building blocks, this is where variables are set. So we're going to add a claim schema that will provide a claim for our access token. Let's take a reference from our base policy. So we have a claim schema here. Going to paste it here. And then we have the claim type. Just going to copy a random one. Paste it in here. After we have it here, we're just going to call it our identity provider access token. Data type is definitely a string. We don't need the help task or any restrictions here. Just change the name. Identity provider access token. Sounds logical. Okay, output claims. And then we're going to create an output claim, which is just a value that our identity provider gives to our claims bag, which will return in our Azure B2C access token, which is a consolidation of all the variables from B2C, our own application, and any external identity providers. So our claim type reference, there's a type reference ID is going to be the name that we've given our variable here. I call the claims variables because they are variables, and then the name of the variable from our OAuth 2 claims provider. Partner claim type, just going to reference it alzat. Right, cool, looks good. And then if we go to our relying party here, which is actually that single sign-on UI. Our default user journey is going to be Mavijo, sign up, sign in. Let's just verify the name. Cool. That's our user journey here. And as part of our output claims, we're going to duplicate this line, and then we're going to use the name of the variable we created. Identity provider access token. We don't need to use the default value or set a default value. We're going to use the actual value, which is the partner claim type, and then the name of the output variable. Great, let's save this. If you go to your extensions policy and search for cryptographic keys, you'll find the B2C Google secret that we have declared. Let's create this before we upload our policies. In your Azure AD B2C, which is also called Microsoft Entra ID, under policies on the left-hand pane, click on Identity Experience Framework. Click on Policy Keys. Click on Add. Enter the name of your policy key. Under Options, select Manual because we have the client secret from our Google console. Just paste the secret here. Create. We are ready to upload our policies. Let's go to custom policies and upload our policy. We have no policies currently. Let's upload the custom policy. Select a file. Navigate to our project under source, our Azure B2C policies. We're going to start with the most base policy and then move up the inheritance ladder. So our base policy first. Overwrite if it exists. Of course, it doesn't exist. The base policy has been successfully uploaded. Let's upload our localization policy. I'm just overriding so we can have idempotency. That's uploaded. Let's upload our extensions policy. Okay, you must just remember that files that represent policies must have their nodes in order. Let's upload our last relying party policy. All right, now that this works, what we're going to do is use it in our application. We're going to copy this name here, this policy, and we're going to change the policy in our application. So in our config file, we're going to change our policy. Social and local. Sign in up. Right, we're going to change our active flow to this particular flow. Save it. Go to our application. Okay, clear everything. It's always a good practice because some things are cached. Ctrl+Shift+R for a hard reload. Awesome, let's test it. Log in. Wow, sign in with your social account, and we have Google here. Surprising that these colors are just awkward, but we'll talk about that later. Let's click on it. Ah, there we go. Continue to, yeah. Let's select our account. There we go. Because this is the first time that we're using our Google account, it needs us to provide some inputs. As you can see, it already extracted some information from my logged in user. This is my other YouTube channel, my video software, my video. Let's create that account. Ah, you're logged in. Perfect. Now let's look at the login result. The login was successful. Login result. There's our access token. If we look at our ID token claims, we have a Google access token here that we can use to call Google services. We have an email address there as well. This is all perfect. These are the claims which are available in the access token. We're going to modify our code so that we can have our name displayed. We're going to set our account details, name, looks good. So account details dot name is going to be displayed. Then we have our access token. Let's save this. Let's log out. Log back in. Google. Aha, retrieved our name successfully. That's wonderful. Now let's call other Google APIs using the access token that we received from Google.